behind this presentation is, so I'm doing a lot of hunting, reverse engineering, and I would like to bring you some kind of a high opener. Be careful about Python in the Windows ecosystem. A lot of people think that Python works only on Linux system, Mac OS, or the UNIX flavors, but Python is available on Windows. It works pretty well, and even if it's not installed by default, I will show you that it could be installed very easily, and you have a lot of malware today that perform really nasty stuff on Windows systems. Quick introduction about myself. I will speed up a bit because I realized yesterday that I had 30 minutes, but normally this talk is 1 hour. So you have to skip some slides and maybe some techniques. I will go faster. Of course, if you have questions, feel free to come to join me later today. I will be happy to have some chats and so on. About myself, so my name is Xavier Mertens. It's me. I'm coming from Belgium. We're a freelance security consultant, so I have my customers to improve their security posture. And basically, I'm a booty guy. So I had to hunt people, I had to hunt bad guys, and when I found some piece of interesting code, I like to dissect it, to have a look at what happened, what's this code. Besides my day job, I'm a science senior, Internet Storm Center senior handler. I hope that you know the Storm Center, that all of you listen to the diary and the podcast that you use every day. I'm also a science instructor. I'm teaching 4.6.10 and 4.7.10. This training is malware analysis engineering, so as I said, and I'm also part of the record security conference in Belgium. I'm the organizer. Why this talk? This is not brand new. I already presented this talk a couple of times at other conferences, but it's still totally relevant. Why? Because every day I still find new Python malware, new malicious script, and techniques evolve all the time. So it's still really relevant. And the idea was that one of my best places to hunt is from Stuttgart, for example. So I have a bunch of Yara holes where I try to catch interesting scripts. And one day I started to see Python scripts. I collect them, I index them, when they're interesting, I investigate them deeper, and you see that this is a simple screenshot coming from Splunk Gray, that you have a trend. It's coming from July, I think it was July last year, until, no, it was the year before, so this graph is from last year. So we see a trend, and I'm pretty sure that if I do the same query today, we will see the same kind of trend. We also produced on the Internet Storm Center a lot of diaries regarding Python. You see, it started, I think that the oldest one was from 2020. Yeah, something like this. Most of them have been written by myself, but you also saw one from Rick, from me, and so on. But we have some fresh bits, so Python is definitely interesting. Where to hunt? As I said, I'm using VT. VT is definitely my preferred location to hunt for malicious code. Of course, the biggest issue with VT is to do this, you need a pro account, which is really expensive. I'm lucky because I have access to VT via multiple customers, organization, and so on, so I can really deploy my rules, my Yara rules, and this is typically what I do. Very simple Yara rule. If you know Yara, you will understand what it means. So basically, I'm looking for, where is this one? Yeah, perfect. I'm looking for specific strings, like basically for decode, sockets, sometimes return to create share util, return to API, blah, 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 blah. Very simple. And the idea is to spot Python scripts. You see that from time to time I have to disable some strings because import sys, if you do import sys, I get way too much false positives. I don't change this rule pretty often. I think the last time I changed it was 3 months ago, and it still gives me some relevant information. First, quick introduction about malware. Of course, why Python is interesting? Because a malware, when I mention a malware, I mean an executable, a key file, it will never be magically dropped on your computer like this. There is always an infection path that you have to follow. You see this on the right side of the slide. start with a phishing or social engineering attack, then you have a first stage, a second stage, a third stage, and so on and so on, and finally, the malware is deployed, and you have a nice ransomware, a rat, a Trojan, whatever you want. And usually the first stage is based on scripts. You have plenty of scripts available in Microsoft Office. Microsoft, the ecosystem. Thank you, Microsoft, for this. You have the good old batch, so the batch file, it works still today. So people, they just write suspicious and malicious batch file. Of course, you have PowerShell, JavaScript, VBS, VBA, plenty of scripts. And all these scripts are available by default in any Windows installation. So you can have corporate computer, your computer at home, computer used by your kids, they all have this different script capabilities. Of course, PowerShell remains number one because it's so powerful, very easy, and this is a statistic coming from also, it's 1 or 2 years ago, but 38% of incidents involve PowerShell, 68% of breaches involve PowerShell. But Python is also interesting today. And why? First, it's really popular and easy to learn. I'm pretty old, but I know that all the students at universities and high school today, when they have to learn a programming language, most of the time it's Python. Even teenagers, they learn Python because it's so easy to use. Yeah. So I'm using Python too, so I switched from Perl to Python. As I said, I'm an old guy, so I started to develop Perl years ago. And one of my objectives for some time was to move to Python, and I did it. Yeah. So why Python is really powerful, even if the script language, the syntax is pretty easy to understand, it's really powerful. The very good point, and you can see this in a few minutes, you have a lot of third-party libraries. Don't try to reinvent the wheel. If you develop something in Python, probably somebody in the world wrote a piece of code, a library, to do what you are trying to achieve. So do not reinvent the wheel. It can be compiled. So Python by default is an interpreted language. When you execute it, it will be compiled live and executed in a sandbox, but you can generate a P file, a real executable that you can drop to victim, and it will work. Probably the two most interesting points are less attraction from defenders. That's the purpose of this talk. I would like to open your eyes. And also, no MSCI support in Microsoft. What does it mean? MSCI means Anti-Malware Scan Interface. From time to time, I have a love-hate relationship with Microsoft because they do some shitty stuff. But honestly, MSCI is a great job for Microsoft. Really cool. Without going too deep, it's a framework that helps you to interface your script with the Microsoft Defender. And as the name says, you will be able to detect if some piece of code is malicious or not. But I don't use MSCI usually in my investigations when I do some reversing. I don't use it for the anti-malware capabilities. I use it because it can log all the actions performed by scripts on Windows. So basically, you run the you have to specify a command. I will not describe it because it's pretty big. It's the basic command you see on this slide, on this screenshot. It will log all the instructions, everything executed by script. So if you have a piece of PowerShell that is clearly obfuscated, you run this command, then you run PowerShell. Of course, you have to do this in your sandbox, to try this on your corporate computer, and you will see in details all the actions performed by the script. It works with JavaScript, PowerShell, VBA, VBS, but guess what? Not Python. So if you run a Python script on Windows, by default you have no way to track it and to see what's going on. The first step that must be solved by the attacker is to install Python, because Python is not installed by default in Microsoft Windows. So when you start to type Python, you will see that Python is not recognized as native. The good news is, if Python is not installed, just install it. If you don't want want to install it, maybe it's already installed in an obscure sub-directory and you have some specific version of Python. If you use OpenOffice on Windows includes a Python interpreter. If you deploy some Splunk tools on your Windows, they also provide a Python interpreter. Pretty cool. So you don't have to install it. Thank you, Microsoft. Windows Subsystem Linux, WSL. Now you have Python capabilities. So if you use this feature, you have Python by default. Another point also from an attacker's point of view is this one. Because Python is normally not installed by default, if Python is installed on the computer, it means probably that this computer is used by a high-level profile. A sysadmin, a developer, well, developers are not high-level profiles, but could be a sysadmin, security, that's could be sysadmin, a reverse engineer, could be a network admin, and so on. Why is it also very interesting to check if Python is running? I'm a good guy, so I don't write malware, but if I was a malware developer, think about some sandboxes like K or Cuckoo, they rely on a Python agent. So if you see an agent.py running, it means that you are running probably in a sandbox. So there are multiple ways to do this. Let's now switch to some practical example and funny example. The first one, if you would like to execute Python and Python is not available, just download it. This piece of PowerShell. So this is a VBS. It will execute a run object. It will execute a PowerShell. PowerShell will download from HTTP, freeze.ga, payloads, Python 3, blah, 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 UL, in a specific file, then create object, shell application, and it will execute it. So using this simple piece of code, you have from VBS, you run a PowerShell, this PowerShell will download and install Python for you. Piece of cake. Why is it so easy? Because Python, by default, has a very small environment, a release for Windows that you can download, and it contains just a zip file, so you can download Python 3.10 embedded KMD.zip, and you have everything, so the basic stuff to execute Python on Windows. This is coming from the python.org website, so probably it will be blacklisted by your firewall, it will be available, it will run over HTTPS and so on, easy to install by the attacker. Once you install Python, you will have to run some Python code. And here, like every type of other scripting language on Windows, you have a lot of obfuscation. It's sometimes you find a very dumb script, but most of the time they are pretty well obfuscated. Question, if we have a very good quality for obfuscation, it means that we have good quality of code. Maybe we can have a look at the developer skills. Sometimes, just by having a look at the techniques implemented to obfuscate the code, you can say, this has been developed by this group of attacker, and so on. Pay attention that most of the time, obfuscation is not performed manually. There are tools, framework to obfuscate a script. So the malware developer, it just write a normal script, and then it passes this to a tool which will obfuscate everything. What type of command obfuscation technique we have? Very basic, always the same. Random and unpronounceable variable name, function names, basic for encoding, XOR, but also different type of encoding, hex, sharps, and so on and so on. Rock13 is also pretty common. This is an example which is pretty unreadable. Well, unreadable. The first time you see this, basically your eyes will cry, but you can really spot interesting information. You have here, we have an import, and the import has been imported using a very nice name, and then you see that you have the class, variable names, function, everything has been obfuscated, but you can already see some interesting strings. WinTLL can do virtual unlock, pretty cool. RTL, move memory, wait for single objects, create threads. So basically, this simple piece of code will inject a shell code, something else into memory, and trigger a new thread. Sometimes obfuscation is also really cool. I'm a big fan of CyberChef. Probably you know CyberChef, the tool, really nice. And sometimes it's just a simple change in the code which will make your life try level reversal, or when they see some code like this, they will say, yeah, this piece of code is just base64. Let's try to decode it using CyberChef. So you put it in CyberChef, you use from base64, and does not work. Why? Because when you read the strings, that it's base64. No, it's not base64. Have a look at the code. We have a bunch of data. So we have the base64 chunk. But how is it used? We skip the two first characters because they are not part of the base64. If you don't notice, if you don't notice this, you will break because you say, it's base64, but I can't decode it. What the hell? Just use this wonderful syntax in Python, and then your data will contain a real chunk of base64 data. By the way, all the examples that I will give here, all the screenshots, all the scripts and so on, I found them. So I did not write anything. It's really, really found in the wild. So we have Python available on our Windows system. We know how to obfuscate the code. Now what I said is don't reinvent the wheel. So attackers, what they will do, they will try to use third-party libraries. And using third-party libraries, you will expand your TTPs and you will be able to do a lot of interesting stuff. The Python's developers community is really crazy. I found a lot of plugins for almost anything. You can write files, decode stuff, connect to some website, and do an interact with API and so on. And in this very simple example, we have a library to simply access the registry. So don't forget that my talk is related to Python in the Windows ecosystem. So we'll try to abuse and to access all the classic Windows resources. And you see here that using the import WinRec, we can just specify a key, we can read the key, we can read the content of a key, we can set the content of a key so we can implement persistence, we have fileless capabilities and stuff like this. Very easy. You can call any Microsoft API call from Python. We already saw this in the previous slide. If you see virtualalloc, you allocate some memory to contain your shellcode, then you will fill the memory with your shellcode, you create a thread, you have command execution. So you inject some executable code inside memory. Probably you could do that using Python, but it's so powerful to use the Windows API. So you have, for example, if you call C types, you can then call C types.windll.kernel32.virtualalloc and you allocate interesting memory. And of course, you have the Windows API, so if you have some skills in classic reverse engineering, you can learn all the parameters. You can see, for example, if you have virtualalloc and the memory the protection bit as there is 40 means page execute read write, we will have executable code that will be stored at this location in memory. You can implement very interesting piece of code in a few lines. For example, here we have no, that's this one. We have here a keylogger. So you implement a keylogger in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Less than 10 lines. Keylogger in Python on the right side of the slide. On the left side of the slide, you can record any type of information from the microphone in also less than 10, 15 lines. So basically, you will call in this, you do import wave, import some device, and now you can access the microphone, the computer, and you record some noise for a few seconds. You will create a test.wave and we'll have a recording. If you run this, it will be video while people are discussing about very sensitive information. You have a WAV file, and then the WAV file you can just filtrate it using any technique you do on the C2 server and so on. So, interesting. But wait, you need to have, you have access to multiple libraries, but what if the library is not installed? Because when you see that you install the basic Python environment, you don't have all these fancy libraries. Piece of cake. If it's not available, just install them. So you see here we have an exception, so we try to import a lot of libraries, except module not found. If we don't have, for example, PI input, keyboard, and so on, you can use I will speed up then. Another way to have a lot of interesting script, .NET. You can interact Python and .NET. So you can have all the .NET capabilities from Python. Any API, as I said, instead of using C types, you can use Win32 API. Handle Win32 API, open process, blah, blah, blah. You create a process. C types, you have the same behavior, another syntax, you can also create a process. So keep in mind that any API code available in Microsoft Windows can be used in Python. Want a backdoor? In 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lines, you implement a backdoor. The last time I checked this code on VT, have a look at the score, only 2 AVs were able to detect this as malicious. And it works perfectly. And it really does a great job because it redirects STD in, STD out, STD out, so you really have a real shell and you can interact with the victim's computer. Pretty cool. Shellcode injection. As I said, you can just inject everything. What we have here, just to give you some hints, we download some malicious stuff from a URL. You see that we prepare an HTTP request. Then we have the wonderful virtual log with a RX40, page execute read write. We fill the memory, we create a thread, and we move a single object. Code injection. Another example. So all these slides that have been grabbed from live and real example found in the web. I like this one. Bitcoin stealer, very classic. If you can access any feature of the operating system, you can also set clipboard. You can do, you have set clipboard, you have also the get clipboard somewhere, where is it? Anyway, you can monitor the clipboard, and every time using the regular expression, you see that in the clipboard you have a Bitcoin address, a wallet, you can replace it by your own. So if the guy is trying to do small payment using a Bitcoin wallet, the destination will be replaced by the one of the attacker. It's pretty cool. And you see that sometimes, not only they check for Bitcoin, but they check for a lot of cryptocurrencies. Bitcoin, Solana, Tron, BB, B2, Litecoin, and so on. Exfiltration, Dropbox. Because you can interact with any tool, why not use the Dropbox API? Because Dropbox developed a Python module, and then you can easily export and exfiltrate some data using your Dropbox account. Crypto miner, as I said, you can run a crypto miner, you can run an application. I found some ransomware written in Python. Honestly, very basic, very easy to spot, very basic, but why not? It works. The picture is real, really. The picture was encoded in the script, and I decoded it, so the picture is real. You see how it works. You have a list of extensions, the interesting files, and basically we browse all the directories one by one. If the file is interesting, it's encrypted. We create the ransom plot and so on. Today, what I see more and more is an interaction with Discord. Every day I found a script talking to Discord because it's a very nice way to implement a C2. Because who can run Discord in your organization? You have to. So Discord is the way to go. Some stealers, in this case, this script exfiltrate the wireless password from your computer. Yes, anti-bugging technique, because if you have to write some malicious code, you can also try to defeat the defenders, sorry. Here you see we have a lot of interesting processes, and what we do, we verify in the process list running on the computer if we have one of these processes. If we have one process like this, it means that probably it's a sandbox, it's a security analyst computer, and stuff like this. DLL hunting. You have a lot of tools. What they do, they inject their DLL into every process. The best candidate is an AV. Every antivirus works like this. They inject DLL in every process. So here we have the same. We open the process. We enumerate all the DLLs loaded inside the process. And if one of them is one of these DLLs, it means probably that we are running in a sandbox or in a sensitive system, so we will not inject it. I like this one. Anti-bugging techniques, clock-ticks. When you enter the script, you have a look at the time. Then, at the end of the function, you check again the time. If you have a huge difference, for example, in a function, 10 seconds happen or half an hour, it means probably the script is debugged. And the time between the function has been started and the end, maybe the secretary grab some coffee, had a Zoom, a conf call, and so on. So the time is too big, and it's a nice way to detect that we are under a debugger. You can of course get the mouse, so you can verify in Python if the mouse is moving. If the mouse did not move for a few minutes, probably there is nobody between the keyboard and the chair, so it's good to infect the computer. You can also detect the keyboard layout. Could be interesting if you are a nation state and you would like to infect only specific targets. I will not mention Ukraine, Russia, and so on, but think about Greece trying to attack Belgium. If I'm using an AZERTY keyboard, maybe I'm a good target. If I'm using a great keyboard, I'm not a good target. Something like this. By the way, you see in this example here that we try to get also the system language page 2052. It's kind of simplified Chinese. You can also interact with the GUI. You can create windows. You can create a very fancy GUI, so interface. In this case, you see interesting strings in Russian. Basically, it's a fake AV. And the script opens a window and warns you, oh, your computer has been infected with viruses. So please click on this link and we will protect you. PyInstaller, as I said, you can compile your script. So it's very easy to, once you develop your malware in Python, you generate an executable and just drop the executable to your victims. Of course, some people, they develop tools to help other attackers, so you can have a rat generator. You just run the script, you specify your secret token, you specify the IP address of your C2 server, and so on, and boom, you get a very interesting Python script, which is crafted for you, containing your details, you can also spread it across your internet. I had to speed up, but it's over. So I think we don't have... I'm available